One of my favorite types of booktube content is the if you like this, read that videos. I love making them too. I've done different variations of this on my channel. I've done and if you like this traditionally published, read this indie fantasy. I've done if you liked City of Brass, read this. And I've also done a vlog series where I asked other creators to give me recommendations based on books I liked. So if I liked this book, I should read this book. And I've loved doing all of them. So I'm back with another one. Since me, and I think all the rest of booktube are in our fantasy romance era, I've decided that today's video is going to be if you liked The Serpent with the Wings at Night, read these. I have 5 recommendations here for you based on different things in The Serpent with the Wings at Night. I will literally specifically call to action a thing that you might like and say if you liked that aspect, read this book. The Serpent with the Wings at Night is my favorite fantasy romance book. It is incredible, amazing. If you haven't read this one, my first suggestion for you is to read this and then come back and read all the recommendations afterwards. So let's start with an easy one. If you liked The Serpent and the Wings at Night because of the vampires, if you loved that this was a vampire story, if you, like me, are a vampire girly, if Edward Cullen and the Salvatore brothers held your heart when you were younger, and so does Rain, then you could also pick up A King of Battle and Blood. I really liked the vampire lore within A King of Battle and Blood. I will say the vampires are a little more vampire-like in A King of Battle and Blood than they are in Serpent. Serpent does have a mix between vampire and fae, in my opinion, but if you still loved the, like, bloodthirsty vibe, the idea of the world being a little bit grittier and darker, then I think The King of Battle and Blood is the perfect place to be. This story follows a world where the vampire king is conquering the land, and in order to prevent his people from dying, the king agrees for his daughter Isolde to marry the vampire king Adrian. Isolde thinks that this is her death day. There's nothing worse to her than marrying the vampire king. Like, he is a monster. But as she is taken back to his court, politics start to maneuver and she starts to realize maybe he's not the monster that she thought he was, and maybe history isn't actually what she thinks it is. I will say there is more smut in this than this one. This is a lot more slow burn than this one is. However, like, just the vampire vibe, like, if you're in it for the vampires, I think that you will really enjoy this one. Next up, if you liked this book because of the prose, Carissa Broadbent has some of my favorite prose to ever exist. Her quotes are so highlightable. Like, I literally have tabs in here, and I feel like every couple pages I'm just highlighting like crazy because she writes so elegantly and, like, the most beautiful, beautiful lines. If you liked the quotes in this, if you liked the prose, I recommend picking up Heavenly Bodies by Amani Aru. I felt the same way in Heavenly Bodies. I felt like the lines were lining. I was really obsessed with what Amani Aru put on paper. It was just so pretty and perfect. And so I think that these really do compare in terms of prose style. This one follows our main character, Alara, who has a destiny foretold about her. She will fall in love with a star, and they will both die. So in order to stop that from happening, one of these stars, which is kind of like a god in this world, comes to Alara's home and murders her entire family, thinking, well, if you think that I'm a cold-blooded murderer, how do you fall in love with me? And so your prophecy is obviously not about me. His plan is just to continually make Alara's life horrible forever so that she can never fall in love with him. This prophecy can never be about him. But Alara escapes. She goes to a neighboring country and asks for help and aid. And there we have a reluctant ally situation that happens. She has to train with the prince of that nation, and the magic system in this was really cool. But really, I think this stands for comparison because of the writing. I think the writing is impeccable in this. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, I have tabs in this like crazy. I was highlighting like crazy. It is seriously a beautiful, beautiful story. Next up, if you like The Serpent and the Wings at Night because of the smut, the spice, Carissa Broadbent, oh, she writes spice like no one else. I'm the type of person who skips smut. I'm not gonna lie, I skim through it. I always think, like, how many times can I read the same scene? And no offense, like, sex to me is often the same scene over and over again. It's like a battle scene. But in this, I didn't skip it. I never skip it. When Carissa Broadbent writes it, I never skip it. And the same goes for this one. Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Schuer. There is more smut in this than there is in this, I will tell you that. And I didn't skip a single one. I really enjoyed the way it was written. It felt to me in both of these that the intercourse happened because of who the characters were, not just to get a scene on paper of intercourse. It felt very natural for them to pick those moments to be together and to want each other's company and to feel safe in each other's embrace. I really liked the smut in both of these. Slaying the Shadow Prince is a standalone within the world of the Blood and Steel series by the same author, but this can be read as a standalone. I've read it without reading the rest of the series. It 100% makes sense. You can definitely read this without reading Blood and Steel. I can't wait to read Blood and Steel after this, but I did read this first. In this, we're following two characters. We do have two POVs in this. The realm is in the brink of destruction by the Shadow Race. The Shadow Race are coming and they're getting stronger and they are killing more and more people. They are destroying villages. Insert Telomere, who is a war sword in this world. The war swords are essentially elite soldiers of the king. They have some kind of like super fighting ability, I think. Telomere is off on a routine visit from the king to figure out why the Shadow Race are getting stronger when he comes across Drew. Drew is a woman in this world who is a warrior, and in this world, women are not supposed to fight, but she doesn't care. Her family, besides her dad, her entire family, was murdered by the Shadow Race, and all she wants to do is get revenge and destroy them. The thing is, Telomere has a secret. In his last battle with the Shadow Race, he was infected, and he is now half Shadow Wraith. And Drew knows this. She can tell from the very second she sees him. And she wants to kill him. However, they learn that they have to work together because they both have the same end goal. They want to destroy the Shadow Race. It's a reluctant allies to lovers, and I just loved this so much. This is up there for one of my favorite fantasy romances, which is interesting because it's a standalone. I really loved this, and I think the spice in this, the little spicy scenes, are really, really well written, and I really liked them. Easily comparable to this one. And if you liked A Serpent in the Wings of Night because of the trials, there is a trial setting within this story. I have a really exciting one to recommend, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now this one is YA, however, the trials are so fun in it, and they compare to the trials in this. They aren't like the most well-developed, you learn everything about them, but they exist to help the characters develop together, and I really liked them. I think the trials are a lot of fun in both of these, and one of the selling features for me, 100%. In Powerless, we're following a world where the king wants to kill off anyone who doesn't have powers. He thinks that the powerless are a disease, and that if we let them live, they will infect the society that has powers, and the people with powers will die, so he's chosen the people with powers over the powerless. Which means Peyton, who is powerless, has spent her entire life hiding the fact that she is powerless and pretending to have power. When Peyton has an interaction that forces her to use her power in front of the prince, she is then chosen to play a part in the Purging Trials. The Purging Trials are a competition that happens every single year where one person will win, one person will have the most points at the end, and they will get glory and fame and money. However, it's very dangerous to enter into the Purging Trials because anything goes. A lot of people die within them, and how is Peyton going to make it out alive? But of course, the Prince Kai seems to latch onto her, and they start to make a friendship, if not more. This was so much fun. This is full of banter, in my opinion. Like, if you just love a story full of banter, this was 100% the way to go. I could have also said if you like the banter in A Serpent in the Wings of Night, try this one as well. But I do think that the trial/competition setting is really where these two stand comparison-wise. And lastly, if you liked The Serpent in the Wings of Night, for the forced proximity that they have. So in this, we have Rain and Araya who are forced to ally together to get through the competition. They are forced to be around each other. They can't really separate, so there is some forced proximity. I would suggest picking up A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. I literally just read this yesterday. So this is new to this list, but I had a lot of fun with A Fate Inked in Blood, and I think that although the forced proximity is different because in this one they're like in a building, it's like an isolated forced proximity. In this one, the king orders these two to be together at all times, and they are forced to protect each other, and so the forced proximity feels similar to A Serpent in the Wings of Night because they're protecting each other at all times, and that's what happens in this one. In this, we're following Freya, who has a drop of a god's blood in her, and there's a prophecy about her saying the Shield Maiden will unite the world under the one who controls her. But Freya has never wanted to be controlled, so she has hid her god's power since as long as she knew she had it. Thing is, she's forced to use it in front of the king, and the king takes her and says, well, now you're mine, I'm gonna control you. We will unite the world. In order to do that, the king uses her as a weapon. The thing is, Freya is not the most well-trained, so the king sets his son, who is the world's most esteemed, feared warrior, with her in order to help her train, help protect her, and literally says, like, if she dies, it's on you, and they are forced to be with each other through all these trials that the gods put them through, and the king forces them to do, and I really enjoyed this. I honestly think it was a whole lot of fun. It's Norse inspired, the god magic is really cool. I definitely would recommend this quite a bit, and I think the forced proximity, the fact that they're protecting each other at all times, because they have to be, not necessarily because they want to be, really compares to me in these two. If you liked The Serpent and the Wings Knight, read these 5 books. I think that they are all very enjoyable. I really enjoyed them all, and I think that they have different things that really correlate to things in The Serpent and the Wings Knight, which is a lot of fun. I would love to know if you've read any of these, if you agree with me, or if you have any recommendations for me for specific things that happen in this that you think I could like in other fantasy romance. And if you're just looking for more fantasy romance recommendations from me, I have 2 fantasy romance recommendation videos on my channel for you to check out. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me a butterfly emoji, and have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.